all, I welcome Dr. Jitendra Bafna. He is a director with AI practice at Fee Dementia Eng. With an impressive 19 years of experience, he has consistently worked across cutting-edge technologies, and he brings deep expertise and a forward-thinking approach to the evolving AI landscape. Dr. Jitendra is the accomplished author for MuleSoft Platform Architecture Guide. He is also recognized as MuleSoft Ambassador for his contribution to the entire community. Additionally, he serves as an Axoni's AI Foundation Edge Ambassador, and his journey reflects innovation, leadership, and passion for technology. We are honored to have you here, Doctor, to share your insight and expertise with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Jitendra, for accepting my invitation. You definitely can start presenting.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Latika, ma'am. Yeah. So, guys, welcome. So, topic for today's session is like how AI agent powered by large language model are transforming the business, right? So, we're going to talk about like how AI has been evolved, how agentic AI has been evolved over the years, and how it is transforming the business. Basically, like we're going to talk about that. We will also see about like the architecture of agentic AI, like what are the different components of agentic AI. So, we're going to discuss all those things. Okay. So I will just start with my introduction. Latika ma'am already just gave brief introduction about me. So I am working as a director of artificial intelligence practice at a Fee Dimensions. I am a MuleSoft ambassador and I am Axonis AI founding age ambassador. I completed my engineering in 2009. Then I recently completed my doctorate in the business administration from Paris American International University. Then I also completed my Master of Business Administration in 2024. Then I completed my post-graduation in Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. Also completed my Master of Data Science in 2026. I'm also TOGAP certified. I also complete some executive program from Indian Institute of Management. Right, I have overall 19 years of experience in the IT field. I have already wrote one of the book, MuleSoft Platform Architect Guide. I'm also running my own YouTube channel, so where I am publishing a lot of videos on MuleSoft, AI, and Agent Force. Then I already written almost 200 blogs on various sites like DZone, Medium, MuleSoft blog, LinkedIn. I have been the speaker in more than 150 events, like it can be online, in person. I had travel across the world, like for talking on multiple sessions, basically. Yeah. So let me start with like as we know, like we are hearing that term artificial intelligence everywhere. So if you see the adoption of artificial intelligence has been explode over the year, like if you see like lot of the organization, lot of industries already start adopting the artificial intelligence, basically, right? So if you see like how artificial intelligence has been evolved over the year, like artificial intelligence was there from last 70 years, but in last 2-3 years it has been explored, right? So it has been like, if you see like after generative AI came, right? So you can see like there are a lot of people start using the generative AI, lot of organization using the generative AI for generating the content, for generating the images, for generating a lot of things, basically. Then on the top of generative AI, like we build a agentic AI, right? So agentic AI is the game changer, basically. Like lot of organization are building an autonomous system using agentic AI, right? Every industry, like including healthcare, finance, manufacturing, telecom, government, everyone is using the AI and agentic AI, basically. Like lot of organization having their agentic AI in the pilot phase, lot of already running on the production. At least, like as I'm hearing, like 72% of organization have adopted the agentic AI. At least they have a one agent within their organization. We are also hearing like within next few years there will be billion of agents will be working across the multiple organization. So it may pass our world's current population, basically, right? So within few years you will see there are more agents as compared to the human on the planet, basically. The one of the advantage of agentic AI, it not only generate a content, but it can take a action on the behalf of human, or it can like it can also it can also think, right? It can also plan, then it can also execute the actions, basically, right? Even agentic AI can take the decision without human intervention, basically, right? So Yeah, without human in the loop. There might be tasks where we don't require the human intervention. We can leave those things to directly to the agents basically, or agentic AI. So agentic AI will take care of those kind of things. In case of critical task, right, where we need of human intervention, then like we have to keep the human in the loop. Otherwise, for non-critical tasks, right, the agentic AI can take decision itself. It can plan, it can execute, it can it can reason basically, right? So like there are multiple ways, like, so as you know, like as I already talk, what are the advantage business are getting? So with agentic, as business are rapidly adopting AI, right? So if you see all the organization, all the domains, like across all the domains, agents are has been adopted widely basically. It we have already seen it is already improving the efficiency, it is already improving the decision making. So there is a rise of AI agent powered by large language model. We have a lot of large language model like GPT, Claude, Anthropic, Claude, like we have a Gemini, right? So we can build the agents on the top of those models. So LLM is nothing; it's a brain of the agent basically, right? So now we are shifting from passive tool to the proactive digital worker. So the agent is nothing; it's a digital co-worker basically, right? So digital labor basically, correct? Yeah. So what we will cover? We will see how agentic AI has been evolved over the year. Then we will talk about what is agentic AI. We will see what is large language model, like what is RAG, what is MCP. We will also talk about a few industry use cases across the banking, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, insurance, telecom, IT, HR, legal, and education. We'll talk about business impact and the return of investment. Then we will talk about adoption, risk, challenges of the agentic AI. So let's start with evolution of AI. As I mentioned, like AI is from last 70, 80 years there, right? But it has been evolved over the years. Let's talk about how it has been evolved. The first phase of the agent of the AI is traditional AI, right? So for traditional AI, it's a phase between 1950 to 1990s, basically, where we have a fixed set of rules, basically, the hard-coded rules. For example, if X is the input, Y is the output. Like we have a label output, basically, right? That particular traditional AI cannot think basically, right? It cannot get trained automatically, right? It is completely dependent on if and else basically. If this, then that. If this, then that. Like if X, the output is Y. If P, output is Q. Like that, right? Then in 1990s, it come machine learning and artificial intelligence. So where machine learning, like start learning from the data, right? We start training the model with huge amount of data. It can learn from the data, right? It can it like it can classify, it can predict, right? It can also recommend, it can detect the fraud, right? We have something called computer visions also. So with machine learning, what is the advantage, right? So we don't have a hard coded rule. The model learn itself from the data basically, is right. The model get improved if it get more and more training, right? So if we start training with a huge amount of data, the machine learning, it automatically learns from the input data and everything, right? So that is where the machine learning have an advantage over the traditional AI. Then we start building generative AI on the top of machine learning. So the generative AI, like where we start generating the content, images, text, code. Even with generative AI, we start generating the codes and everything basically, right? We are giving some kind of prompt in the natural language, like or we provide some kind of blocks to the generative AI and we ask them to improve this particular block, or we give some kind of prompt in the natural language, and then like it generate the output for that, or we asking them to generate some kind of videos, some kind of images basically, right? But still, like if you see in traditional AI, machine learning, generative AI, like it is, they are generating some kind of output, right? Some kind of output, but they are not able to take any kind of action, right? They are not able to plan, they are not able to execute anything, right? So that is where agentic AI come into picture. So agentic AI, it's a era from 2023 to now, right? And it is like it is adopting widely everywhere, right? So the one of the advantage of agentic AI is like it can perform the task, it can take action, right? It can think, it can plan, right? And even it can iterate basically. For example, if some output is generated and the agent is not satisfied with that output, it will iterate, right? It will iterate and it will loop through that again, loop through all this life cycle, and it will try to generate the output which match our goal basically. So that is what this is how the agentic AI has been evolved over the year. So as I mentioned, the traditional AI, it's a rule written by the human basically. It's a simple if and else rule basically. If then, right? If X, then Y. If P, then Y. Like those kind of example, right? So there are certain certain example like symbolic logic, decision tree, search algorithm. For all these kind of things, like we have a labeled output basically, right? There are for a certain example mycene and deep blue, right? So these are some of the example of traditional AI, right? So here, like, what is the one of the disadvantage? If certain rule is not matched, right, it will not going to give you any kind of output basically, right? In case if you want to generate the output for the rule which is not matching, right, you have to go and update your model with that particular rule, right? So that is one of the limitation of the traditional AI. And that apart from that, the traditional AI cannot learn from the data. It cannot evolve basically, right? So that is the few limitations comes with the traditional AI. Then comes machine learning. So we have a lot of learning algorithm like decision trees there. We have a random forest. We have a supervised learning, unsupervised learning. There are various like neural networks, deep learning. Like we have a computer visions, right? So what happens in machine learning when we train the model with large amount of data, right? It will going to generate the output, right? So we don't want rules where we have to write some kind of if and else logic, but it will, like, depending on what input we are giving, it will going to generate the output for you basically, right? And it also learn from the previous inputs, like, it can also take the feedback, right? So apart from that, you can keep on training your model with like new data, like, so that is where there's the advantage of the machine learning basically. So like if you see the Netflix and Amazon recommendation, it's nothing, it's a machine learning algorithm they are using. Like we have a credit scoring, fraud detection, right? That is all, like, that is all done with the machine learning basically, like, so where like model can recognize the pattern, right? Depending on pattern, it can like detect the fraud basically. It also do email filtering, email spam filtering. It can do the image recognition. We have something called computer vision, right? So depend on, like, we can train the computer vision with some lot of images. Then the computer vision definitely, can identify or can recognize the images. Then it also can forecast the demands and the prices basically, right? So then it comes generative AI. Everybody is like, I think like everybody is using the generative AI nowadays, like, so we go to chat gpt if you have any queries, right? We simply go to chat gpt or any other generative AI platform, and we just type our query in the natural language and we get the output basically. There are like models like GPT-3, GPT, chat gpt. We have a GPT-4, GPT-5. Then we have Anthropic 4, Anthropic Opus 4.6, 4.7. Those kind of models are available, right? So like generally it's nothing like generative AI, it's kind of interactive session. We just talk with like chat gpt or any other, like, through some chat window. So whatever question we are asking, like, we are getting the answers for that. So we can do the, like, we can interact with your, with this generative AI basically. So generative AI is very useful, like whenever you want to improve your mails, or if you want to generate some kind of reports, or if you want to summarize any kind of documentation, right? If you want to do some kind of coding also, right? If you want to do some kind of translation, right? So that is where you can use the generative AI. If you want to generate some kind of images, if you want to generate some kind of videos, right? If you want to its name says generative AI is nothing, it generates something basically. Now comes agentic AI, which is very important. Like agentic AI is a game changer. So most of the organizations start building the autonomous system using agentic AI. The only one reason, because agentic AI can take action basically. For example, if I want to initiate some kind of refund automatically, right? So agentic AI can do that. If you want to work on the case basically, some reoccurring case, or like, so some cases, right? So agentic AI can, like, work on the cases basically, and it can solve, right? It can provide the solution to the customers basically. So but for agentic AI, the LLM is behind the agentic AI. It's nothing, it's a brain of your agentic AI basically, right? So it can call any APIs, it can call any other systems, it can query database, right? It can run code, right? It can also have a long term memory, it have a short term memory basically, right? You can also define the goal, like what this particular agent needs to do, right? It can also do the self correct when something failed, right? And it can also learn from the previous data, like previous outputs, right? So that is what the agentic AI does basically, right? So real example, like vibe coding. You may heard about the vibe coding, right? Where you can give a task to the agent, and agent will generate a code for you. Like I will say, Java agent, can you just please create a a calculator for me using Java code? So it will going to provide some kind of code which you can use to like it will generate a code which you can use, right? Right, using the agent basically. Agent can also help you in research basically. Like if you have a 200 PDF, right? If you don't want to go through all 200 PDFs basically, you just give those input to the agent basically, and you can ask agent to summarize those PDF basically, right? It is very important in the research also. Like if you want to summarize 200 PDFs, right? So you can simply provide the information to your agent, and agent will just provide the summarization of each and every PDFs, or maybe a single summarization documentation. It depends like what kind of input you are giving, what kind of prompt you are giving basically. It is very useful in the customer service basically, like so any kind of, it can also do the ticket allocation to the right group or ticket allocation to the right person, depending on the descriptions and depending on the other parameters basically, right? Yeah, any question? Okay, I will move ahead. Okay. So only one of the advantage, like agent can think, can plan, and can perform the action, and even it can iterate basically. That is one of the advantage of agentic AI, right? So these are the four eras compare. As I already mentioned, like we have a traditional AI, machine learning, generative AI, agentic AI. So as a traditional AI, we have hard coded rule. Uh, Machine learning can learn from the data basically. Generative AI is nothing, it's a pre-trained foundational model. And agentic AI is LLM plus tools plus memory plus goal basically, right? What it does, like it follow the logic, if and else for logic basically. Machine learning can predict and it can classify, whereas generative AI can generate a content. Agentic AI can take action basically. It can plan and it can execute the action basically. So depending on what goal you are giving to agent, and depending on that, it will plan and it will take action. So for traditional AI, it's a structured data. Machine learning, it will be labeled data. Generative AI, input can be text, image, code, or anything. Agentic AI is nothing like, sorry. So input will be structured data for traditional AI. Label example machine learning. For generative AI, it's simple prompt in the natural language. So you can write the prompt in the natural language. Agentic AI, you can give a goal, right? So for goal example, I want to create a case in service now that my television is not working basically, right? Or like some kind of some kind of goal you need to define basically. Then output will be always decision, like if you say if X, then the output will be Y, like that. For score slash label, like it will either give some kind of, it will classify the data, or it will predict something basically in the machine learning. Generative AI generate text, image, and the code, and agentic AI will perform the task, whatever task you are given, it will complete that task basically, right? Autonomy is none, like there's a no autonomous in traditional AI, no autonomous in machine learning. Generative AI have some kind low, like but agentic AI is a high autonomous system basically. You can build high autonomous system. Business mean automatic rule, like it's kind of BRE, business rule engine basically. It machine learning always improve, right? So it provide better prediction. It can generate a content faster, generative AI. Then it agentic AI, you can, like you have a chatbot kind of workflow, right? You can replace those workflow with agentic AI. Chatbot is something like it can take some kind of minimum actions basically, but like you chat with your chatbot, and like you can provide the direction to chatbot what needs to do. But with agentic AI, like so it can, like it is more advanced, where like it can plan, it can execute, and it can take the action or like without any human intervention. That is what agentic AI. Okay. So what is agentic AI? So agentic AI is nothing. It's a software, or it's a agent that uses large language model. Large language model as its brain basically to understand goal, make a plan, use tool in the real world, and complete the multi-step work with a minimal human intervention. What does this mean? So agentic AI use the large language model. The large language model can be Gemini, can be Anthropic, Claude, anything like So large language model, it's nothing. It's a brain of your agentic AI. So with large language model, like it try to understand the goal. So what is the goal? What is the input? Then it make a plan, right? Then it use the tools basically. The tools can be anything basically, right? So it can be API call, it can be query to the database, it can be getting the data from your like vector databases, right? Then it can come like it also come, then it complete the multi-step work without any human intervention. So it's a nothing, it's a goal driven. So you give it, you need to tell like agent what you need to do. You need to give a outcome basically. Then tool, like it can use any tool, like it can call API, browser, database, email, like code, whatever, like so then reflective, right? So it check its own work. So one of the good advantage of agentic, like it keep on checking its own work. If the goal is not matched, right, it will again go to the plan step. Then it will again divide the task into smaller tasks. Then it will going to complete the multi-step works basically, right? Again, it is not satisfied with its output. It will again iterate basically till it doesn't satisfied. It will keep on iterating basically. Yeah, I will not say like it will go into the infinite loop, but at some point, like after 2 3 or 4 iteration, it will just give you output basically. Yeah, so these are the like 4 step of your how your agent loop work basically. The first, perceive. So first it read a goal and the current state basically, right? Like your email, it can be document, it can be your like prompt, anything, right? Then it will plan what will be my next action. What are the tools I need to call? Whether I need to call API, whether I need to call database, whether I need to call MCP, whether I need to call other agent, whether I need to call any other system basically. So it will plan. Or whether I need to call ServiceNow for creating the ticket, whether I need to call Salesforce for creating the ticket. So depending on what goal you are giving, it will going to plan it. Then it will perform the action. It will call those tools basically, like whatever plan it make in this particular second phase. Then the action will be performed at the third step basically, where it will going to perform some kind of action, right? And finally, it will check whatever output generated by me, whether it is matching the goal or not. If not, then again it will go to like again it will go to plan step, then again action, then again reflect, right? So these are the few steps, like for the agent loop. So one of the with chatbot, it will never get into the loop. It will never going to verify its own result. And whereas chatbot cannot take a complex action, it right here it can take a complex actions basically, like so I already work on some of the platform where like I build some of the agent which does the coding basically, right? So I work on some of the agent where it start doing the coding itself basically, like so whatever task it taking like 2 days or 3 days, it is happening in 30 to 40 minutes also. So and like I also seen like it also generate a good amount of code basically with a good accuracies and everything. Okay, so that's understand the difference between agent versus chatbot versus RPA. And I hope everybody heard about this term, like agent and chatbot. Yeah, most of the people may heard, but RPA is nothing, robotic process automation, basically, right? So who decide in RPA? Like who decide this step? This is the first question. Here, RPA developer in the advance it decide. Like so, whatever workflow we define, that cannot be changed. Like this will be the it will always follow those steps which we already defined as a part of your RPA. Chatbot, you can provide the prompt where AI agent, and in case of AI agent, and at a runtime it take a decision what it need to do, what it need to do, right? So those decision has been taken by AI agent itself. What if page change? It will break, right? It here it's not applicable. Like it's kind of chat window, it's kind of interactive window, right? Then whereas like here AI agent can adapt automatically, right? It can adapt the changes automatically, right? Can it use a new tools only after recoding? So we need to do the decode. If you want to add some additional component, if you want to add some additional platform or tools, right, we need to do the recoding basically. Chat Gen AI doesn't support it, right? But yes, you can describe the tool in agent. Like you just have to describe the tool, what does that tool does, then it agent will adapt that tool basically automatically. Multi-step, it's a linear script, right? So we have defined 1 2 3 4 5 step, so it will follow that 1 2 3 4 5 step, right? In case of done one turn at a time. Yes, like AI agent, like multi-step work, yes it can, like it plan automatically, and always it doesn't follow the same step. It depend on the input. It can change the steps basically, right? It can, for like it can break the step. It during the plan phase it can decide what needs to be called first, what needs to be called second basically, right? So it automatically decide. It's a dynamic basically. It's a best for RPA is best for high volume and fixed process, like like my process will never get changed. That is where RPA is very useful. Chatbot is good for like summarizing, like question and answer, drafting, and whereas AI agent is good for end-to-end knowledge work basically. Yeah. So these are the few differences between agent, chatbot, and RPA. Any question before I move into the third topic?
Yes, please. Can I ask my question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much uh, for this tutorial, for this demo and this class. Yeah, you have really enlightened. I just want to confirm from you, based on the analysis we have done so far and the explanation, I want to confirm if anti-gravity is a good example of agentic AI. Anti-gravity, based on my experience on the AI, I want to confirm if it's an agentic AI. Thank you.
No, can you repeat? I am not able to get your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I said I want to confirm if anti-gravity is a good example of agentic AI.
Yeah, like I haven't heard about anti-gravity basically, right? So it like if you can give me some idea what anti-gravity are
Okay,
talking. Yeah.
okay. Some of the features that you have, like yesterday, I was trying to develop an application. Yes, that is car loan uh, automation system, and I feed anti-gravity with my prompt, with the database to be used, and some other requirements. And the system developed a complete system, a complete solution with dashboard, reports, and everything without any human interaction. So,
Okay.
and the
I got.
application can
I think I got your problem. Like you are saying, like you are building some kind of dashboard on the anti-gravity kind of thing, right? Some kind of
yes,
analytics,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
See,
yeah, yeah.
see. I have seen a lot of places where people are using agent on the top of those dashboards. So where you can ask the question to the agent, and agent will going to get like. See, every person cannot go and read the dashboard, right? So like people need some kind of experience to read the dashboard, to read some complex graph. Instead of that, you can ask the agent, like you can build the agent on the top of it, and you can ask the query to agent, like I want this particular parameters, right? So for example, I will give some other example, like we are working on one of the organization where we have some kind of crm kind of analytics, where we ask like what is my turnover turnover for last few years basically, right? So it will provide like we have a dashboard also, but it will provide the information like in 2026 you have $1 million turnover, in 2024 like you have a 2 million turnover dollar turnover, and like it can also predict like in 2027 2028 your expected turnover is this kind of thing. So you can definitely build like agent on the top of it, which can provide some kind of analysis on the anti-gravity dashboards and the analytics. Yeah. Is the answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go to next slide. So how agent are built. So yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned, like there are a lot of large language model, like which is we need a large language model because like agent like reasoning lies in it underlying large language model, right? So as I mentioned, like LLM is the brain for the agent. So we have an Anthropic Claude. So Claude is already come up with Opus 4.6, 4.7. We have a Sonnet, we have Heku, like Opus 4.7. Like I will suggest everybody should know about the Opus 4.7 basically. So they have recently launched Opus 4.7, right? So where the reasoning mode is almost more than 85 to 86%, like Then we have an OpenAI GPT. Then we have a Google Gemini. We have a Llama model, which is from Facebook, Mistral. Then we have a Cohere command. Then we have a DeepSeek KWVN, like KWVN, like it's good for like coding also. Then we have a Grok from Twitter, or we can call this as a X, right? Then we have a specialize and the fine tune. You can create your own large language model also, right? So, large language model is nothing. It's an advanced AI model which is trained on a massive amount of data, billion of parameters, or like it like I heard like lot of there are a lot of models which has been trained on 16 billions of parameters. Like you can think about 16 billions of parameter, right? Then we have certain example GPT-4, Claude, Gemini. All these are the examples of your large language model, Open GPTs and everything. So what are the capability? So they can understand the natural language, right? So like you don't have to give some kind of technical specification. You can just talk in the natural language. You can just say, I want to create a ticket in the Salesforce. I want to create a ticket in ServiceNow, right? So, and you can also provide description what kind of tickets you need to create. It will go and create the ticket automatically for you, basically. Then it large language more like if you build the agent on the top of it, right? Then like we have a large language model which can do the reasoning also, which can also summarize the document. Like if you have 100 pages of document and you want to just extract the some kind of valid information or some important information or critical information from that document, you can just ask you just provide the input, that document as the input to your large language model, and just ask large language model like I want this particular information. So it will going to summarize those information and just provide it to you. Okay, so there are certain language and frameworks we have it for building the agent. So Python is one of the most like one of the language which is mostly used for building the agent. Basically, I also use Python most of the time, right, when I want to build some kind of agent. But there are like Python also come up with something called LangChain framework, Llama Index, QAI, AutoZone. Like these are all the important libraries, right? And plus like it plus the official Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google SDK. So you can use all this like to build the agents. Basically, we have a Java and Kotlin also. We can use the Java, right, Spring AI, LangChain 4j for building the agent. We also have a Go language, right? Then we can also use some kind of TypeScript and the JavaScript, then C# and .NET, Rust. But there are many more. Like these are the few important languages which I mentioned here. But there are many more languages available where you can build the agent. And also there are a lot of SDKs, lot of frameworks available doing minimum coding, right? Or even without doing the coding, you can build the agents basically, right? So you just check N8N also. So there's just some framework available, N8N. Just check that also. Okay, what an agent looks like. So this is the user interface where user can chat, can give the voice as an input, can give the input from mobile application API, or can give the input from the IDE basically, right? Then we have a memory, like we have an agent runtime orchestrator. So agent runtime orchestrator will take care of all the actions that or all the steps that need to be performed basically, right? So then we have a memory here. We can have a short-term memory. We can have a long-term memory. Short-term memory, like it stores the data, it stores some kind of information which is required for that particular task, right? Later it will like remove that information. We have a long-term store also. So long-term memory also. In long-term memory, whatever you're storing in the long-term memory, right? It is nothing, it's a learning, like what you have learned basically, or some kind of instruction or some kind of information that you need to give to your agent basically, right? So that you store in the long term, because that long-term memory, whatever is storing in the long-term memory, it will going to execute for all the tasks, for the multiple tasks basically. Now we have a RAG. So have you heard about RAG, something called retrieval augmentation generation? So as you know, like we have a information, we face a lot of information from the large language model basically, but you may have some information, some confidential information, some sensitive information, that large language you don't want to train your large language model with those information, right? But if somebody in your organization want to know the finance status of your organization, in your organization, not your outside the organization, right? You can build something called vector database, basically vector DB. So vector DB is nothing, it's a retrieval augmentation generation where you store the data in the form of embedding in the vector database. So whenever like anything input related to like your internal organization, it will go to the RAG basically, right? And it will going to search that particular information and send back to the user basically. LLM or brain, like LLM, as I already talked about, it's a brain of your, of your agent. Then we have a tools, we have a lot of like MCP, model context protocol, we have a APIs, DB, we have a browser code, then guardrails. So you also have to mention like, what agent can do, what agent cannot do. You have to provide proper guardrails, best practices. Then you should tell your what agent should do, what agent should not do. It's nothing, is skills. What skills agent have, what skill agent doesn't have. You need to define those kind of things basically. So right, so agent doesn't like, you need to also ensure that whatever output provided by agent is transparent, right? It is with the local policy or like local, like with the local policies and regulations, right? All this you can just put it into your guardrails basically, right? Yeah, let me go to next slide. So RAG, I already talked about RAG. RAG is nothing like whenever you want to get the internal information basically, right? So you may have a private documents, you may have a some private records, right? So where you cannot train your outside model basically, so that in that case you store all this you embed those data and you store into your vector database basically, right? So whenever you fire a query, right, so what is our refund policy in the U? So this again, this particular question will get embed, right, and it will going to search into your vector database. So whenever it find a similar embed or similar chunk, right, so it will going to generate, it will pick that data, right, and it will just convert that data into original like real language from like embedding to some like English or whatever, right? Then it will answer back to your like your client basically, right? So this RAG is very important. We basically most of the organization is using RAG also, right? So how it works, index, so it chunk your document, turn into vector embedding and store in the vector DB basically. When agent has a question, find a most similar chunk, right? Then it augment, so stuff those chunk into the prompt. Now it will convert that particular data from embedded data into proper data basically. Then finally it will ground your data with the citation basically, right? So RAG is basically like you can use the RAG whenever you want your internal information. uh, whenever you don't want your LLM to be trained with your internal data or internal information, and LLM will not have a internal information of your organization. That is where you use the RAG. You just attach your RAG to your agent, then agent can take the decision whether this information I will get from RAG or I will get from LLM basically. Then we have a model context protocol. So like I will just explain this in the simple term. This is also very important. So it's nothing, it's a bridge between your large language model and your organization system. So whenever large language model want to talk with some end systems basically, right, you can use the MCPs basically, model context protocol, right? So basically model context protocol is a bridge between your LLM and the and your backend system basically, right? So here if you see like if you don't have a MCP, right, so you have agent A, agent B, agent C, and agent want to talk with the GitHub, Slack, Postgres and the file. So agent has to make the 4 connection, agent B has to make a 4 connection, agent C has to make a 4 connection, right? It's almost like 3 into 4 12 integrations basically, right? With MCP you just have a one MCP, all agent will interact with MCP and MCP will all automatically take a decision. So where I have to send this particular query to GitHub, Slack, Postgres, or file, and it will send result back to the agent which has called the MCP. So the number of integration has been reduced. There's just only one integration, but the 7 connection, right? That is the advantage, and you can easily integrate your MCP with your large language model basically, right? So you can ask any query to large language model, and like via MCP, it will going to retrieve the information from your backend system. It can be API call, it can be database query, it can be anything basically. Okay, so I will just I already explained that. So now I will the most important part where we are using the agentic AI across the industries. So in banking, like we are using the agentic AI at a multiple places for KYC and onboarding, basically, right? So if you see, if you want to improve your customer onboarding time and KYC, basically, right? So that is where agent is very useful, basically. So you can have a multiple agent. So one agent is like checking the credit score, like one agent is creating the account, and one agent is doing something like so. Those kind of orchestration can be happen here. Loan underwriting. So basically, agent can automatically collect the document, right? It can also verify the income. It can also run. It can also run the credit models, right? It can check the credit history, and depending on that, it can just provide the decision on that basically. Regulatory reporting, basically it will ensure that whatever data pulled by by the agent, right, it is consistent, right? It is consistent basically, right? It is like it is matching with whatever rules and regulators are defined basically. Fraud investigation, basically it is very useful when it comes to agent can identify the patterns like for the fraud basically, right? It can like what it can do, it can pull the transactions history, and it can draft the recommendation for your analyst. Then wealth advisory, agent like prepare client meetings, portfolio reviews, tax notes, propose allocation changes. Then one customer service, like agent can like most of the organization already started using agent at the customer services basically, right? So like for example, if your some transaction got stuck, right, you can just simply talk with the agent and you can get the information why my particular transaction has been stuck and what is the recommendation. Then agent will give you information like, yeah, within 24 hours your transaction will get clear, and it will provide all, and it will also helpful in doing some kind of claim settlement and everything for you basically, right? So this is where, like, in the banking and finance industry, you can use the agent. Now in healthcare and life sciences, like for preparing or for creating the clinical documentation, you can create an agent. So agent listen to the visit, write the note in the EHR nothing, it's an electronic health record, and doctor stop typing basically, then patient trials. So agent take a symptoms by phone or chat or route urgent case to the clinical. So here agent, like, I'm not saying like agent will do the treatment. So depending on your symptoms and whatever, it can get this, it can take the symptoms from you, and it can assign the correct doctor to you, or it can route your case to the proper doctor or clinician basically. Claims and billings, so agent can also help in like settling the claims, like building for create, like preparing the billings and everything, right? So those kind of prior authorization. So agent can, agent can help, like feels like it can collect all the forms from you, and it can fill the form and submit to the payer basically, right? It drug discovery basically. So agent, so we may have a lot of literatures available for like building the, for creating the medicines and all this thing, right? So agent can read those literature and previous design experiment and summarize the results for the researchers basically, right? Care coordination. So agent schedule follow-ups, reconcile medication, and send reminder. So you can, like, agent can helpful in booking the appointment for the patient, right? It can also provide the previous medical reports and history and everything, if it's available. Then it can also send the reminder automatically, like, if the patient have an appointment, it can send the reminder every before 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever, it depends on what kind of instruction we have given to the agent. It also used in the retail and the e-commerce. So like it is used for the personal shopping agent, so it can help you in provide the recommendation depending on the person history, inventory and replenishment. So agent can also useful, for detecting, for detecting the inventory shortage and everything. It can automatically, order the inventories and everything, and it to the suppliers, and it can automatically place the orders, right? Marketing content, it can also help us you in generating some kind of marketing content. It can use in content marketing basically. Dynamic pricing. So agent can also help, help in creating some kind of dynamic pricing, looking at the other competitors basically, depending on the demand and supply. It can automatically set the price for your product, right? Return and service. So return and service can be improved, right, by using the agent, right? So it can also improve your refund processes basically. So as soon as, you receive your product, you return your product, it can automatically refund like amount. Then visual merchandising. So agent arrange the product page and search result to match what is selling basically. Yes, it is also useful in manufacturing and supply chain. So in like predictive maintenance, so agent can, monitor the sensor data. Then it can schedule the repairs before failure, or order. It can automatically order the parts if some parts is not working well. The supply management, right, it can use in the engineering co-pilots, quality inspection basically, product planning. It can also help in worker safety. It can monitor, agent can monitor video PP compliance and alert the supervisor basically. So most of the manufacturing industry have a lot of sensors like cameras and everything. So like agent can take those as a input, and can monitor the whole factory, machines, like even workers, like everything, right? So to ensure the safety, to ensure, the maintenance can be taken care of the machine at a time, like that is where, like, the agent can be used. It also used in the insurance, like for claim processing, customer onboarding, like subrogation and recovery, underwriting. It can also useful in fraud detection, right? It is very important. So whenever, you are doing some kind of insurance, you have to ensure that, it's not kind of fraud. It can like detect, or it can investigate some kind of suspicious claim and prepare case file for CU, right? Then agent answer policy questions. So you have a predefined kind of question and answer, right? So you can ask questions to the agent, like, how much time it will take for my claim get processed. So agent can give the answers for those kind of questions also. There are some predefined kind of frequently asked questions basically, right? It used in the telecom media, like if you see in media, like it is used in the content production also, right? You can build lot like content, right? So if you want to build some kind of content or some kind of ads or some kind of visualization, you can use this. Customer care, I already talk about that. All industries are using already in the customer care. Then fraud and sim swap, like agent can detect anomalies and lock down accounts in the second. Churn prevention, then field service and network operation. So these are the particular few use cases in the telecom and the media industry. Then like there are other departments like IT, HR, legal. So IT in IT and software, like I have already seen a lot of people start using the agent for doing the coding, for doing the vibe coding. Basically, you ask, you give a input, you build the agent, you train that particular agent on that particular like language. Basically, you create the memory, you create the skills, right? You train that, like, and then you give an input to your agent. Your agent will generate the code for you basically. And I've seen it's generating the code with a very high accuracies and everything, like. Then HR and talent, like it like HR already started using the agent for doing the employee onboarding. For like employee onboarding is the multi-step mechanism, right? Where you have to create the employee account, then you have to order provision the laptops, you have to provision the email, you have to create some kind of like IT account, all these things, right? So this can be done all automatically without any human intervention basically, right? Legal and compliance, it is also already using legal and started using the legal and compliance. Education, right? So we already have a lot of tutor agents available, which helping student, which help the student, or which help to personalize the learning for the students basically. So what companies are actually seeing? So if you see, there are 30 to 50% lower cost in the support and the back office operation, right? So as you know, like the customer service or support services, right? Those are has been already automated. People organized started automating that. They are building the agent and they are automating that. Like 2 to 5x output per knowledge worker. You can see like difference. 70% of routine ticket resolved without human basically. So reach like 10x faster research drafting and reporting. 40% sales and the deal cycle, and 3 to 6 month typical payback on the focus agent project basically. So this is the return of investment. You get the return of investment within 3 or 6 months. So if you see it overall increase the productivity, right? It definitely do some kind of cost reduction. It does a faster decision making and scalability without proportional hiding. So if you see like it is a good number, and you will see like over the few years this number will going to improve. As I mentioned at the initial stage, right? It has been predicted that within the 2027 there will be billions of agents across all the world, across all the organizations within the world, right? That is the prediction right now. Then we already seen the trend, like every organization start building some agents, like start building some agent for their use cases, for building some kind of autonomous systems, right? How to start first? Fine. So you have to, like, how you can start, like how you can identify where I have to start with some kind of agentic AI in my organization. Fine, the first step is fine. Always try to find one or two high volume repetitive workflow that is boring, or like it taking much more time basically, like manual, when you are doing some kind of manually, right? Then build, wrap the LLM with the right tool, data, and the guidelines. So then try to automate, then try to build like some kind of agentic AI on the top of it, right? So you can wrap with LLM. You just define some kind of guardrail which I mentioned, and some kind of right tool basically, right? Now pilot, run with a friendly team. So just try to do the MVP basically. So run that, like don't make it production live right now, right? So run within some kind of small amount of people, then measure time, cost, quality, and the satisfaction. Then scale. If you are satisfied with your pilot, then scan, like expand to the more teams basically. Then like share that particular agent with a more team. Build shared agent platforms and policy. If there's any issue or anything, just redesign the process around the agent and don't bold them basically. So simply identify the high impact use cases, right? Pilot AI agent project, invest in the data structure, and also it is important to upskill your workforce basically. So this is a 5-step process that you need to follow. Okay. 6 things to govern from hallucination. Sometimes agent, you feel like agent is very confident, but sometimes it may wrong basically. So if there is some critical output, right? So don't depend on the agent, right? So you put some kind of human intervention in that to verify it. Like for initial, at least for initial days, like if you are not feeling confident, right? If you have some critical task where like which cannot be move forward without human verification, so keep the human in the loop there. Data and privacy. So give only those data to your agent which is needed. Don't give all the data. Don't give the sensitive data to your agent basically. Security, treat prompts tools as an attack surface, and so make sure like whenever you are communicating like via agent, the communication is completely secure basically, right? So there is some kind of authentication authorization policies, like so like some kind of like ensure that some kind of secure policy has been applied on the top of agent. Cost and compute. So make sure like it's all when you are working with agent, right? Your cost is completely depend on number of tokens you are using and how token get add ups basically. So it depending on the input and depending on the output, how many words in the input and how many words in the output, depending on that it count a token basically. So make sure like you don't give all the information to your LLM. If you're like if you can if you can do the job in 10 words, don't give a 30 or 40 words to your LLM basically, right? That is very important. Audit and compliance, make sure you are logging each and every interaction, right? So because in case if there's any future issue or if any compliance issue, you have a logs there, you can go and verify. People and change, always be honest with the team, right? Don't say like whatever you have done, just tell like just say with your team basically. Then you reskill, redefine the roles, say the productivity gain. So as I mentioned, AI agents powered by LLM are not just a tool. They are now become a digital co-workers. They are supporting the human basically, right? Businesses that adopt AI, right, have a early gain competitive advantage, right? Like most of the bigger organization has already started adopting this AI, right? The transformation is ongoing and it is accelerating every day. Governance and responsible AI. Make sure like whatever agent you have built, like there's a ethical AI. You build with the ethical AI framework basically, right? You are not like whatever you are doing, it should be transparent. Like the person sitting on the other side, you should know why this particular output is generated, what kind of information has been saved, and what kind of information we are collecting, why we are collecting those information. So the person who's sitting on the other side should know this. Human in loop system, make sure like if you have some critical task, right, where it cannot go ahead without human intervention, so then you just add the human there. Make sure like whatever agents you are building, it's compliant with the local regulation with your country, and make sure it's a transparent decision making. There are certain challenges, data privacy concerns, so make sure like you are not logging any sensitive data, or you are not giving that sensitive data to a agent or LA. Bias in the AI output, make sure the whatever output generated, it is not biased. Lack of explainability. So whatever output generated by AI, right, whatever output generated by AI, it is explainable why this particular output is generated, what is the reason for this particular output. Then integration with legacy system, like it's very difficult. We have a lot of legacy system to integrate agentic AI. It's bit complex. Okay. Yeah, so I'm simple, like agent are not future, they are present basically. So they people are already started using agentic AI everywhere. Like most of the organization already started building the agentic AI. If you see in the IT, most of the people are doing the coding with the help of agents basically, right? So even if you want to migrate from one technology to another technology, agents are very important. Agents are helping us to migrate code from like C sharp to Java, Java to C sharp, so that you can do within minutes basically instead of days. So those things can be done in a minute. Yeah, that is what I will say. The agentic AI it's a game changer for now. Everybody is implementing that. It's a good time to learn about the agentic AI. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, a
Yeah,
beautiful session.
thank you.
Indeed, a very beautiful session. But we do have some questions.
Mhm.
No more breaking. It's not right. Ablajo,
Jitendra, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a few questions. We have Kambe, sir, to ask you a question.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah,
I
please.
proceed? Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, yes. My question is simply: you have, in the course of your delivery, great. Thank you for the delivery. You have done a great job. In the course of it, you came finally to challenges and risks, and that is where my focus has been. We have gone through a lot of literature and researchers and all that, and they always hammer on these very areas of challenges: data security, privacy, pragmatic biases, ethical consideration, name them. These have been particularly, I'm an HR professional, and that is where my interest has been. Most organizations seems to be a bit skeptical in implementing HR because they think, as we said, we have mentioned human in the loop. That is great, fantastic. But the apprehension has been that HR is going to take their job, and that particular, the sensitive area is their data, which hitherto was being kept in conform. Now, everything is around the world. So if you see human capital organization are trying to implement HR into a higher domain, but the people seem to have some resistance. At times, covertly, they cannot hear, but they are not happy with the HR when you're going to implementation. How do you address those concerns, which is very sensitive for human capital?
Okay. So your question is around data privacy, right? So basically,
Yes. Yes, that's why I'm focusing.
yeah.
How can we address that
So
organization?
yeah, see, if you see, I already mentioned in the session, we have something kind of rails, right? We can tell the agent like what you should do and what you should not do. So I can, in my guardrails, I can define like, so whenever I'm sending some sensitive data to large language model, you can mask those data basically. I cannot send my social security number to large language model, right? I cannot that, right? So because if you see, we never know like what kind of data they are using to train the models basically. I cannot go and send my so I can mask I can provide the guardrails where I can just mask those kind of data, right? I don't want to send those data to the LLM or any other system basically. You mask those data. I can define those kind of things into my guardrails basically, right? In my, or also you have, when we define agent, right, we have something called skills. We can tell agent, right, what is your responsibility, you should not go out of this particular responsibility. You can define those kind of skills also, right? So apart from that, like on the top of agent, right, so you can also build some kind of security, some kind of like data masking is there, like you can also have some kind of, if you want to make sure like your request is coming from right source or anything, right, so you can build a trust layer across that basically, right? And also like whenever you are giving some kind of prompts, basically the prompt can have some kind of vulnerabilities also, right? So at a trust layer, you can check your prompt also. You can make sure like your prompt doesn't have any kind of vulnerabilities, right? If some vulnerabilities is coming, right, you just stop there, you just, so those move forward basically, right? In case of any sensitive data is coming, you just like, I will call this as a PII data, right, personal information identification. So I don't want to send my PII data to the LLM basically. I want to stop those, right? I want to mask that. So those kind of things you can apply, like there are a lot of things happening, like if you see, like we have a LLM gateways also, large language model gateway. We have a lot of, so the first security check, we have a gateway on the top of agent. So anything getting into agent, so first things, everything will get check up at the gateway will make sure like whatever rules and regulation we have developed, it follow that. Apart from that, then as I mentioned, we have a second layer which is agent, right? In agent we will define our skills. We will say, agent, your responsibility is this, you don't go outside this particular responsibility. Then we define the guardrails also, right? So in the guardrails we will define, you have to follow this, right? You don't have to do this, those kind of things you can do, right? There are much more things can be done, like, yeah, there are many things around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Jitendra,
you.
sir, thank you so much. But then it's almost time for us to wind up. Betty and Abdullah, sir, I will be sharing sir's LinkedIn ID with you all. You can get in touch with sir on LinkedIn and clear your doubts. So thank you, Dr. Bafna, for delivering such a insightful session on agentic AI and LLM powered business transformation. Definitely, sir, your expertise and practical perspective truly has enriched our understanding to this evolving domain. And we sincerely appreciate your time, your effort, and your valuable contribution for our inspiring scholars. Thank you so much, Jitendra, sir, for
Thank you.
today's session.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have
And
a nice
sir had
Thank
lost
you.
one of his family members, so the day got shifted from Saturday to today. But sir, I really appreciate, since you're in morning period, and since I did ask you whether you like to do it, and he said, no, I'll do it. So thank you so much, sir, for considering us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jitendra, sir.
We appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Doc,
very
as well,
much.
for organizing this for us.
Thank
It's
you
quite
very much.
relevant for
Good
us.
night.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry for your
scholars.
loss. Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
we can move out. Sir is left. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow in my session. Bye-bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.